Hello. Hello. Make sure you can hear me. Just text in the chat to make sure you can hear me. I think I can hear myself just slightly. So that is a good sign. Yo, AR10. Hello, David. Hello, Zachary. Yes, we do have quite a bit to talk about. Or Zach. It's because your other name on other stuff, Zachary. So we'll talk about those in a minute. We'll just say hello to people first. Hello, Assad. Nice. We're good. You can hear me. Hello. All good, Victor. Perfect. Perfect. We've got 24 people here. We've only just started. Ideal. If you haven't already, drop a like down below. Blue Code said, yeah, all good. Drop a like down below. That'll help the stream, push the stream, and push the video when it drops after this. We're going to preview the Celtic, what we want to see in that game, Chelsea Celtic. We can do it by talking about how things looked the other day, and then we can think about who didn't play. As you can see down this column here, I've put the 6 players, no, KDH2, 6 players that didn't play, and then you got this first team, and then I've got another tab open with the other team as well. And we will speak about what we want to see, who is impressed with, all these things. And what was the other thing I was going to touch on? Yes, I also uploaded a video, probably went live about 2 hours ago now, of the things we learned from the Chelsea v Wrexham 2-2. After this stream, go check that out. Drop a like on that. Any support on that is much appreciated as well. Hopefully I can hit a K by tomorrow. I think it's on like 300 views already. Nearly like 50 likes though, so that's ideal. That's doing well early on. So yeah, speaking about those, quick plug to let you know that's out already and to support on that and support on this. But let's get into Celtic. I haven't done much work on at all, so I'm not actually that sure. I watched them against City the other day, but it was more so personnel scouting. So in terms of like what they're gonna look like, not too sure. But we will speak about how we're gonna look, essentially, Alexander. Let me quickly go through the messages that I didn't go to. So Daniel Knight said for next game he wants to see Mudryk and Dewsbury Hall, as do I. Cole's a waste at left centre back. Hopefully, we see him as a central centre back. I'd like to see him as a central centre back, but I don't think he's a waste at left centre back. Put it that way. You two cleared up the Moises Caicedo thing. I have no extra information about it, but Zachary's right in terms of Enzo coming on the 29th, so we'll probably see Cole, Gallagher, and them as well. At a similar time, Kukurea too. What else did I miss? What team would you go tomorrow? We'll jump into that in a second. Do you see KDH and Palmer starting together following the news? Together, it's doable. Do I think it's ideal? No. In terms of if they were going to start together, KDH would basically be seen as the more defensive of the two. Yeah, it's doable, but it's probably not as ideal as having a Casado as like the Ndidi role, sort of defensive 8. Yeah, Daniel said that again. Yeah, we went back to that. I agree. I really want to see both of them. I think we'll have more space with a back 5. So yeah, playing against a back 4 of Celtic, much more space because that's something Wrexham struggled with. We struggled against Wrexham with that back 5. There wasn't as much movement in that back line, especially when one of our 8s obviously was dropping in, sort of creating a 3-3-4 at times. So like Nkunku would drop into here, and you'd almost see this. Against a back 5, it was just too crowded. Mark Gu was pretty much the only one making those runs. Weren't enough in-seam runs from the wingers, but again, I think that's going to come with time, where they start wide, and then obviously as these two drag centre backs out, they make these runs. Again, and similarly with the 8s, there wasn't enough interchange between George, say, picking it up here, driving inside, as Nkunku drags away. There wasn't enough of those sort of actions to create tensions on those wings with the 8s, but hopefully we'll see that in time. What are your thoughts on most fans saying Reece is getting wasted? I don't think he's getting wasted. I think that a lot of fans are upset that he will not be used as a width providing right back because of how good he is at crossing the ball. But again, in this system, that's not how it's going to work. You have to get to grips with that early. I don't think he's wasted in there at all. I think he's perfectly suited for that inverted role. So we will see. In time, I understand that people want him in crossing positions, but again, when we're dominating teams and we end up higher up the pitch, Reece is the sort of player who has the caliber in his locker to unleash these sort of half space crosses into the box from here. Even if he picks him up here, he has that quality. So I don't think it's wasted as such. We didn't win against Wrexham, but the style was there and clear. Very positive. Yeah, agreed. Who would you start tomorrow? Again, I don't think it matters. I think they're both going to play 45. So um, I know that one of them might play 60, one half an hour, but I'd be surprised in that position. I feel like they'll swap at half time just because they are. I think some people will play 60 tomorrow, but I don't think all. So like Reece and Gusto, I think will swap. Do you think inverting Reece Gusto is a waste of their ability? I think we just touched on that, but yeah, Gusto as well. I think he's unbelievable in that inverted role. I think he's extremely underrated in there. And as Assad just said as well, this is true about Reece. It does take the toll away from those sort of like line busting runs. Defensive eight is needed, yes. Carney didn't do too badly with it. Carney had a bad game. But both of these players, one thing I thought they did really well in that first half, especially with Lavia, who would jump up to press, is these two would jump backwards really quickly and they'd converge on the ball very well together. And Kunku and Carney are like athletically strong enough in that sense that they can sort of like back off and win the ball in that area. So, and yeah, I didn't rate Carney in the right half space either compared to the left. I thought he was better in that left half space than he was in the first half in the right half space. Best position for Carney to thrive, I do think, is that left attacking eight. But either of those attacking eights work. It just depends. He's the attacking eight, not the defensive eight. Is essentially what I think his best position to thrive is. Don't like Nkunku as a striker. He's better playing behind. In this system, I do kind of like I want to see him in the nine, see the dynamics. But yeah, like in a like traditional like shadow striker number 10, that's probably his best role like ever in terms of over time. But what else? How important will Colwell's passing be? Extremely. One thing that Colwell was doing a lot was getting it on that outside left foot and looking for that ball, sort of like that outswinger between these lines. And again, if these runs are happening more often, which will come with time, those passes are going to be very important for the team. I do also think having him in here would be ideal in terms of when you've got these passes to find. I think Colwell is perfectly suited to do that. And again, a lot of people think about his angling, and like, yes, it is slightly better on his left foot, but he's more than capable doing it both ways, in my opinion. Yeah, you said that. Do you think KDH will be a nailed starter? No, I don't think he'll be a nailed starter. I think he'll be a useful addition, especially because of the price, and if Gallagher goes, especially then because he can suit all roles, he knows the system, and I think he's a floor raiser. I don't think he's a nailed starter. No. As Victor just said as well, please do smash the like. That would be much appreciated. We've got Reece James in the chat again as well. Did your average position with Gusto very high? Like he, it was slightly more high. I do think that was more based on game state than it was because obviously we conceded, and then also like, and again, I think it was more just for minutes. I don't think that will become like a massive feature, but I also think Gusto in that role. And again, what we started to see is what we do sometimes see is this player does step up, and then sometimes you do almost see like a two, and then this player steps two. So you almost have like a two, two, and then six, essentially 5-1. Like this player does. It did happen a lot last season where Pereira would step up as well. So yeah, something to think about. Should Casado get some minutes tomorrow? I'm a bit torn. I think so. I think he might do, but it's one of those things. Like if he doesn't, you sort of understand it. The main ones I want to see to Mudryk, I want to see tomorrow. Like if he was just being rested for that first game, which I was told, that it was rested, then yeah, it would be nice to see him get some minutes tomorrow. We spoke about that. Smash the like, as Victor said. What's the pros cons of Colwell left centre back with central centre back? I think that was you must have put that just as I hadn't I'm pretty sure I've said it now. I'm pretty sure. Was you here when I explained it? Like those passes through here, and then the ability to play those if he's central. Let me know if I touched on it since. Do you think we need another striker? I think it's one of those ones you can wait on till the end of pre-season and assess if you think Gu is good enough to be the third choice if Nkunku is going to be the other option there with Jackson. So I think right now we wait unless a real good option pops about. Did you see that Chilwell was training with the wingers? Yeah, and I thought, and I did say this the other day too. I think his most probable role in this team, if he stays, is just coming on late in games as that defensive left winger and almost dropping in to make a five, sort of like Madueke did in the first half, sort of like Fatu did um, for Leicester last season. I think that would be Chilwell's role off the bench if he does stay. So it makes sense as to why he'd maybe be training with those wingers. But yeah, I think they'd like to get rid of him first. And yeah, Chilwell was quite bad. His results matter in pre-season? No. It is much more to do with getting players match fitness and seeing a style. So results don't really matter to me at all, as long as there's enough signs, and the style was way more important. People got to realize like that was Rex. Like we're going to be playing against Real Madrid, we're going to be playing against Inter Milan, we're going to be playing against like already established systems. The last thing I'm worried about is the result. I just want to see how we deal with certain game scenarios. How do we look in possession? How do we look out of possession? How do we deal in transition? How do we attack in transition? How do we beat around a low block? How do we work the ball around a low block? Can we keep higher amounts of possession against better sides? So against an Inter or a Real Madrid, or Inter maybe not because they sort of play that out of possession where they'll more or less let us have the ball. But with Real Madrid, again, can we dominate periods of the game in possession? These are things I want to see. Chukwu felt awkward in the defensive eight role. He did it on the ball slightly, but again, in this system, I think it's the only place he really fits. Can't really play in the pivot, even though defensively he helps in transition. Not good enough to be sort of like playing those. Not good enough, not the word, but it's not stylistically his game to be sort of looking for those line breakers. So I do think having him in that left defensive eight was a better option for the team. And again, he's going to go out on loan, so he is almost just there to get some minutes and just to like help the overall functionality of the team and like the understanding. Because you got to think, say that role is going to be Casado. By playing Leslie Ugochukwu in there, you're almost mimicking the role of what they'll do. So the rest of the team can still learn the intricacies around it. You still need to have some familiarity because if for example, you started, I don't know, what's another example? Let's just say they started Vega here, right? Which again, you probably could, but actually, Vega's probably not even a good example because he's defensive. If you start another attacking player in here, basically, then the dynamics are incorrect, and you're learning dynamics that you're not going to be playing with. So you at least want to mimic what you're going to be playing with during the season, and Les Zugachukwu at least does that to mimic for the rest of the team. Do you rate the new goalkeeper signing? I rate him more than other people have like are speaking about him, but he wasn't the top end of my list. He was quite a few names down, but he was on my list. So the fact he was even there is a sign that I do rate him, but it wasn't that high up. What website app am I using? It's down here, tacticalboard.com. Very faint down there, but you can sort of see it. I'll draw a line just underneath it for a second. Did y'all notice the set pieces were better against Wrexham? Yes, they were hitting their man more often. Again, I want to see a few more games before I comment on it fully. That's why I sort of didn't mention it much, but to see if it's consistent. But yes, I did notice that quite a few of them hit their man, and we could have had a couple goals from them. We got the Conference League games coming up as well before season. Yeah, before started of not before the start of the season, but yeah. Thoughts on KDH? Again, I think he's going to be a good floor raiser, bench player. Bench player is hard, but like rotation player in terms of how we can use him. I'm assuming he meant Kueva, the set piece coach, Azamaya. He was one of my favourite additions because set pieces are so important to breaking the game state in this current era of football. Hence why Arsenal and City are putting even more on them. Where will Enzo be used? The Lavia role for me. Again, it's not to say you can't do it, because Enzo is a good player to like sort of pick up this ball here to like create from deep with these passes. But this player usually has to be able to carry an extensive, like, if they can pick up the ball here and carry it all the way to there on their own, because it adds a different dynamic. So again, Enzo can do that, but I still think the best usage of Enzo is in this role here, where he can dictate play. And again, when he gets up to the, like, when teams are pushed back, he'll still be operating from here. Still has that chance to play those killer passes, getting around the box, little half space crosses. It doesn't completely limit him offensively. Right, let's get into how it could look, like what we want to see, because a few people have asked about the ideal starting 11, and so let's have a little play with the team. So what we could see, and again, obviously this is in possession. What could we see against? We'll make two teams, okay? So we're going to go with the first team to begin with, and we'll make a few changes. Again, it's probably just going to be two, like, I don't think it'll be two full strength sides. So we're just talking about what we'd like to see differently this time. Let's start off in the chat. Is there anything particularly I disagree? But I think Enzo is going to be world class. But each to their own. I've been on the Enzo train before we signed him, so I was watching Enzo at River Plate and massive fan, and I'm glad we got him, because I do think he'd be at Real Madrid if not, or at least eventually. Right, so I want to see Madueke on the right again. George, as much as I want to see him again, like, I'd maybe play him in the second half. Again, Sterling, like, he probably is going to play. I do have a feeling we probably don't see George, which is a shame, because I want to see him again. I would play him in the second half. I want to see Mudryk. I'd like to see that front three together, and then I'd probably play Nkunku in the second half up front. I'm not going to go into detail about that, because I just don't think it's going to happen. And I also just don't think he's got the 1v1 capabilities as much as, like, it's just not going to happen in the system. I know, so I'm not going to go into the whole width holder thing for fullbacks, because I don't think it's going to happen. Two, I don't think it'll work unless, like, the dynamics completely change. Can we see Vega, please? Yes. And you've also said how Vega play. So yeah, Angelo, again, I want him to get minutes, but I don't want to take away from Noni. I still want Noni to get at least 45. I think Carney will play, saying he might not play at all. I do think he'll still play. Dewsbury Hall, and yeah, so let's say Dewsbury Hall goes here, just to see the dynamics. And let's say the thing is how this. I'd like Casado. I'd like to see this, but roaming too much, no, because I do think that it was on purpose. But like, it's a tough one to discuss, because I get where people are coming from with it, because he was sort of straying across his zone, but he was also, like, his ability to pick up the ball in here and drive with it through the lines is something that helps. Like, a deep carrier does help. And again, like I sort of touched on earlier, this is something that we'll see at some point during the season, in terms of sort of almost a 2-2-5-1 against real low block teams. So I don't mind it in practice, but again, there will be points where he does have to be more stabilized and more tight to where he would be. So yeah, you're not wrong on that. If Casado is in the lineup, I genuinely wonder if he stays deeper and Reece floats into the right side 8. Yeah, and again, that's something that I spoke about in my, like, early, and also not on the Celtic, by the way, up the Chelsea. I did speak about this dynamic in, like, my Maresca video, or maybe like the one after. I want to see if that does become a thing, because I agree. I think that's something that could happen. I'm not saying it will, but I'd just like to see those on the pitch together, just to see what they do. I think Casado and KDH will play as 8s, while Nkunku play at left wing. And Nkunku, like I say, I'd play him up front in the second half. But this is also, like, suggesting, like, if Jackson's even ready to play, because if he is, maybe he gets I think maybe Jackson doesn't play this game, and then he might maybe starts to get some minutes afterwards. So we'll start with this for the first team. I do have a feeling we see a pretty much similar backline. I would love to see this, personally. Would love to see that for back three. I don't know about you. Yeah, Reece remembers me telling him about how he could rotate with Casado. Um, how much are they all? Yeah, about £1 billion. I mean, not worth that, but it will be a good game. How are you a Celtic fan? I'm assuming. What was the game like the other day against City? How do you feel about that one? Hi Joe, how can I hope you're well? Who would you choose as your third player to loan to Strasbourg after Wiley and Santos? Um, Good question. I would probably go. See, I would go Washington, but it's again it matters on minutes. Um, Let me get back to you on that if I think of anyone else. But I'll say Washington for now. Yes, it might have been. Oh, it might have been the video that included Elise. You're right. You're right. That might have been it. The Elise video talking about how him and Palmer could rotate a little bit with the 8 and the right wing. 55 people, by the way, in there. Can we all drop a like if you haven't already? That is huge. Maybe now's the time to do streams, sort of midday streams from now on, because that's crazy. What else? Think we need a new striker. And what happens if Jackson and Kun could get injured? That's 2 players though, and then, like I say, it depends if Gu. Again, I'm happy if he has a good enough pre-season. Then I'm happy to sort of roll with it. Again, it also depends on the possibilities of what you've got. I like Samuel Marodian, um, but not for the price, not for the high price, because it is still a risk. Same way I would have had Duran, and yeah, like you said, we have Gear. Osimhen, of course, if an opportunity arises, I'd take it every day of the week. But other than that, Gusto is a good dribbler though, and having Gusto in the right allows 2 attacking-minded players in the half spaces. I know it will probably never be Maresca's main weapon, but I want to see him try that. I'd like to see it. I know what you mean. I would like to see if he would try something like that, just because it gives us an idea. Fana won't start under Maresca. I disagree. I disagree. Yeah, we could use Gu in the Conference League. If he shows that he's good enough to sort of play that level, then 100%. 100% keeping Angelo if Palmer is viewed as an 8, like you said, provides a perfect contrast to Madueke in terms of profile. Yeah, that's what I like about it most. The fact that you have like a maverick, sort of like literally direct, get the ball, go, get the ball, go, get the ball, go, direct winger. Um, as opposed to Angelo, who's a bit more sort of pick up the ball in intricate areas. Can I play a cheeky little pass in here and link up to get back in behind? Can I swing one in from here? Like he's just a bit more of a connector and a wide playmaker, as opposed to Madueke, who I love, who's just so direct. And I just think, again, I understand why people were really annoyed about him the other day, because his end product was poor, but he had the beating. He had the beating, and that's what I like about Madueke. He just doesn't give a fullback a day off. Like he's just a nightmare. It's the same way as I view Doku. Like, and I understand like end product does matter. Of course it does. That's what wins you games at the end of the day. But he doesn't give a defender a day off. He is a nightmare. If you defend him Madueke, people can have their opinions. They can say that he's not good. Like again, I disagree, but you can think that if you like. I can't tell people how to view a footballer, but I just do think he's a nightmare. Kansas is getting on Rodian if Dovbik goes to Atletico, but Roma also in the race. I think Roma's going to get at Dovbik now, but they are after Alvarez, aren't they, as well? So we'll see. Who do you think will have a good season for Chelsea and be Chelsea's players? The players of next season, I would go. Well, my biggest winners for the side were Enzo, Madueke, and I've already forgotten my third one. Colwell, I want to say, or maybe Reece / Gusto. So I'd say those 4 are the one. They're the ones I'd earmark. But of course, like Nkunku, I think could have a brilliant season. I think Palmer is Palmer as well, but I think that's the easy one to go for, and I think people will view him with a different lens this year because it's almost guaranteed to be a worse season than what he had last time, just purely on chance because he had such a good season last year. And if he just scores less goals, people will just instantly equate that to Casado's had a worse season, even though that probably won't be the case. He'll probably have just as good a season in terms of actual ability and impact, but it just won't look the same. Carney's a good shout as well from Reece. I think Carney could have a brilliant season. Maybe not player of the season, like because he minutes wise, but I think he could have a real breakthrough season for sure. Thoughts on the Ben Chilwell future? Oh, I didn't bring it up. Yeah, again, I think he either gets sold or I think he becomes like a bit part player off the bench to just see out games. I don't think there's much more to it than that. So let's say the team I've got on screen now. Let's say that is the team we play. Let's say that's the starting team. Okay. Out of 10, how happy are you with that lineup in the first half against Celtic? Let me know, and then we'll move on to the second team, which we'll sort of have a think about because I'm not sure how long, and how many minutes I think we're going to play each player. I think we might see a few 60s, but I still think we're going to make a lot of subs at half time. 9 out of 10, Lewis. I like that. I like that. I really, this is very much what I want to see. Again, I'm like, there's players not in the team that I want to see play, but just for like what I think's possible and what might happen. Again, and Kunku, I'm not leaving him out because I think he's worse than Gu, for example. It's just I want to see Gu with these two wingers, so it means it means Nkunku in the second half for me. You want to see Nkunku off the left, EPL turf, AR with a 10 out of 10 rating. And yeah, I think Carney could play in all the Conference League games and be one of the Conference League player of the seasons for sure. Am I just blind, or did Sterling look more hungry to play than he did it? Yeah, I think Sterling was actually quite good. Also think Sterling's a bit overhated, slightly. I think he gets a lot of stick. I don't completely agree. Like, I don't know if I would say overhated. Well, no, pretty is, but my point is it's for a reason. I do like. I think the annoyance of Sterling does make a lot of sense. Um, but I do think he was good. I think he was unnecessarily. I think because people are so annoyed at him from last season, me included. I think people aren't willing to give him credit when it is due, and I do think he actually looked fairly bright the other day. So I will give him that. But again, if I had the choice against Celtic, like it's not because I don't want to see Sterling, but I'd rather see Mudryk and George. So in that sense, and that's very unlikely because Sterling will get minutes against Celtic. I'm almost certain. And Kunku's a 9, but I'm happy. Yeah, and like I say, and Kunku in the set, I'll show you my second half team in a minute. We'll build that. Just need Jorgensen. Yeah, when he's available, that becomes an option for sure, and I want to see that. 7 out of 10. Can't see Casado playing again. Yeah, he might not. But this is obviously in an ideal scenario. So again, if Casado isn't playing, then just put that as Carney. And then I'm still happy enough with it. Yeah, you don't like Nkunku as a striker. I think in this system it makes a lot more sense. Is properly hated. 3 chances to square the ball. Might cause. Yeah, and last season, that's what I mean. It was justifiable. He wasn't that bad yesterday, but he could have tracked back to help Chile. He did a few times. He did win the ball back a few times on the counter press, but yeah, to an extent. I think him and Angelo, neither of them really looked like they were taking up that defensive winger role as Madueke did in the first half, which was interesting. Need to see dual rates of Palmer and Kunku behind Jackson. Yeah, the defensive. I'm not sure about the defensive quality of that. That would literally have to come in a sort of either in a Conference League game, which again I don't think will happen because that would be sort of the place where you rest Palmer, and probably in Kunku too, or against a really low end Premier League side who we know are going to sit in a low block. And even then, I think it would be the sort of thing that you turn to at around the 60-minute mark, not something you turn to from the get go. Do you think Jorgensen immediately replaces Sanchez? No, I think Sanchez starts. But I think Jorgensen takes over quite quickly because I do rate Jorgensen enough. Where do you think Chelsea will finish next season? I personally think fifth because I think it's not going to be as plain sailing as people are making out. I think there's every chance we finish fourth. And I think the squad is more than good enough to, but I just think there's some intangibles that are probably going to happen. Injuries, as much as I want to be optimistic, and I do think there'll be less, I think a few important injuries to the squad is obviously still going to be detrimental. And again, there is just going to be a sort of building in period, especially with such a drastic change from Pochettino, almost everything being chaos to something quite structured and different. So I would predict fifth, but again, that's sort of me being a bit more cautious as well. Like, there's every chance we could finish fourth, every chance. I think the squad is easily a top 4 squad. It's just sort of sewing it all together. Would I take? I'd take fifth. Again, I wouldn't take fifth. Like, it's hard to say. Like, I'd be disappointed with fifth, but it's not enough for me to like throw my hands in the air. Whereas most Chelsea fans would. If we come fifth next season, maybe if a Conference League win as well, maybe people would like sort of be okay with it. But I know for a fact if we don't finish top 4 this season, there will be outrage. I won't be one of them. As long as I see enough, if we come 5th and I've seen enough in the season, that's enough for me to hold my judgment for the next. We finished 3rd above Liverpool. I'd love it. I'd love it. Liverpool aren't really worrying me this year at a minute, so yeah, it's fair enough. I think Slot is another one I think it's going to take some time. There's a few similarities between him and his and Klopp's football, but right, okay, that's the team there. Let me come off of... Stop that. Delete that. And then I will share... this one. This was the second half team, okay? So now let's work out what we think might happen. I think Sanchez probably plays 60 still, okay? So we're just going to... With the goalie situation, we'll just sort of leave that as is. He probably plays 60. Pull the other leg, mate. What? I don't get it. Liverpool play today, so going to try to see how they do. Yeah. Thoughts on Fofana in that central centre back role? I don't mind it. I think he's probably slightly better suited to this role for his carrying and that sort of recovery speed, but I do think he's more than good enough, and I think he's aggressive enough to do it in that role. Seen a lot of exploitable weaknesses in Maresca's system. For example, he was pretty well nullified against Leeds. Against us, we kept distributing long to the wings and getting through easily too. I think part of the exploits from last season were more so to do with the personnel at Leicester rather than the exact tactical fit. And I'm not as worried as you in that sense. That of course every system has an exploit though. Like there is a way at every team. It's City. They had to buy Vardiol to get rid of the exploit that they had in terms of defending that left channel, and even then it's still not quite there yet where it's actually like fully rectified. And by doing that you then open yourself up to something else. You're never going to stop everything in football. It's about deciding what you're going to stop and what you're going to allow. So I don't know how many people here watch basketball. It's very similar to that in the sense of, and again it's much more simple in basketball because it's basically some teams will sit back in the paint and they'll allow you to take a 3-point shot if you're not a very good 3-point shooting team. Whereas the other example is if you're a very good 3-point shooting team, you run them off the line and you make sure they can't take 3-point shots so that they have to come inside and go for 2-pointers in the paint. So in the same way in football, like you have to just decide what you are going to give up, what you're going to let the other team have. If they've got tiny strikers, some teams allow crosses. It's great analogy. Yeah, it's one that I always think about. For basketball, I do actually think is a very good analytical sport to get into if you love the sport if you love analytics in football. I think it's one that can almost enhance your ability to understand tactics without without it even being football, if that makes sense. Although I do like basketball only watch as a hobby. I'm not in anything to do with that. What is your top 4 prediction? Probably, I think Arsenal probably win the league this year. I think they've done enough. I think they're one transitional monster away from winning the league. So let's see if they sign a striker or a left winger. Then City, then. See, this is where it becomes interesting because as much as I'm saying Chelsea 5th, it's not based on anything above us because I genuinely don't know. It could literally be a mix-up. It could be a throw-up. If Ten Hag puts everything together, Man U could come 3rd or 4th. If we put things together, we come 3rd or 4th. I think Aston Villa are going to be right there. Maybe again, I'd probably have predicted them around 4th. But yeah, I think there's a lot. I really can't give you one right now. You're less optimistic. I'm very optimistic. Do you think we can win the Conference League and 2 domestic cups? Not 2 domestic cups. Conference League, yeah. Over this pre-season, I hope we don't get any injuries, as do I. 3-1 Celtic, no. And City could still win the league. I just think Arsenal have really closed the gap if they end up signing one of Moreno, El Ruiz, and Calafiori, which they've already done. Spurs as well, yeah, but I think they're also going to take a little bit of time. But again, you're right. I think some of their recruitment's been excellent. Yeah, okay. You've put this, so let's get into Palace looking really good with transfers and coach. I agree. Again, not top four though, but they're going to be there and there. That's the team that I'm going to be following. I've made like sort of a list, and like I'm following like one main team per division. So obviously like Chelsea is the Prem team that I'll follow, but again that's more through fandom. But I'll do it through the eye, like with a tactical lens. And I've got 3 teams from every league pretty much in the top 6 leagues. And then I've got a few sort of outsiders as well. Crystal Palace is the second team that I'm going to be following in the not when I say following, I don't mean supporting. I mean like analysing. So Glasner is one of my favourite managers in the league. But as you said, Vega over Chilwell. So let's get into what we might see. Okay, so we're going to say Sanchez is going to stay in goal. Right. Let's say I think Fofana only plays one half. So this was the defence we had, wasn't it? How was it? We had Toss in there. So I think at half time you probably go Fofana probably comes off. Dizassi's going to play, I think. So we probably see that. I prefer slow build up because I think it allows the entire team to move forward as a block, and that's the way this team has been built. Again, I understand if people don't like watching it. I like watching it personally, but if some people don't, that's fair. But I like it. I think it's the most sustainable style of football in terms of being elite and winning things. So yeah, Disassi I think will come on for Fofana at half time. If this was the case, I think we're going to see Disassi. This is where I'd like Cole to get 90, but almost the dynamics to switch about, right? So Gusto and Santos, again, I think you probably see a half from both of them. Let's say who was playing there? It was Casado. So let's say Carney comes in on the left for KDH. Ugachukwu comes on for Casado. Angelo comes on. Again, I'm going to put George there, even though I think Sterling will. That I want to be in Kunku. Who else? Vega, I would like to come on. So again, this is like sort of what I'd like to see in the second half, to an extent. Casado comes off. He comes off. Casado might not play at all. Sterling again. This would mean he doesn't come on, but doesn't play. But so let's say this is the second half team. Again, it's pretty more likely that that's Sterling, but I want to put it as George. I've got him as 67 now. Was it 32 the other day or 34 that he's been wearing in pre-season? 34, I want to say. That looks right. Because he was 67 before that, with his like first team number. So let's say the second half team was something like this. So Colwill sort of shifts, and again in a back four, it would mean Vega's playing left back. It would mean Colwill's at left centre back, Disassi right centre back, Gusto right back. He inverts alongside Santos, who comes on for Lavia, Carney on for Dewsbury Hall, Ugachukwu on for Casado, and Kunku up front, George and Angelo. I think that for a second half team would be much more exciting to see. You still get to see Carney a bit in the left half space. You still get to see that pivot. You get to see a new configuration of the back line. You get to see a new position for Colwill, sort of playing in that role. You get to see Nkunku as a striker, although it might not be you might not get as much from him because of like there's maybe a case that you leave Lavia on and you bring Santos on in here just to sort of try something different. At least at 60 minutes, and then maybe Ugachukwu can come on for 30 towards the end for Lavia, and then Santos can drop back. But like I say, some players probably will get 60. So like you could leave Lavia on for 60, you could leave Cole on for 60, you could even leave Mudryk, or probably not Mudryk because he didn't even play 45 the other day, but you could play Madueke for 60. Do you agree that the fullback that inverts will mainly based? I do think it'll be more often than not the right side, but I think that they're based on opponent. We could see some from the left, but I think the base structure will be from the right. Where do you see Enzo in this team in that Lavia role? For sure. What game will truly see positive changes from Maresca? How do you mean by changes? Like, how long will it take? Because it could take. There's no telling on how long. That's purely based on seeing progression in every game. Putting Kunku in the number 10, there isn't a number 10. So he either plays as one of the eights, which he did the other day, and we've already seen. So in which case I want to see him as a striker, just to see both. It was 32. Damn. He was that. I mean, the two roles he can play is either as the striker or there, and that is where he played the other day here. So they're the two. Like that, there's 10 doesn't exist. So it's either the attacking 8 or the striker. So what would you rate that out of 10? If that was a second half team, what would we rate that out of 10? Also, drop a like if you haven't already. We're on 34 likes, but we've got 50 people viewing. Can we get that up to 50? Can we get that up to 50? That would be absolutely amazing for a short stream to preview the game. 8.5, 9. Victor also said, was watching the Celtic v City game, as was I. Oscar Bob did two, was it 1 goal, 2 assists for Bob, I think? Or maybe a goal and an assist? No, I think it was 1 and 2. Most of their goals came from the right side, where if Chilwell plays left centre back. Chilwell maybe gets half an hour on the left wing. Like, it's genuinely, we don't know what we're going to see. You gave it a 7. How would Cole and Nkunku fit in the same team? Most likely with Nkunku as a striker or on the left. And then Cole's the 8. 8 out of 10, 8 out of 10. Would be interesting. And that's what I mean. I'm not even saying Nkunku is like, I'm not saying I only want him as a 9. I want to see it. So at least show me it first in this system. And then you can sort of start to make some. I think we're going to see Nkunku. We've seen him in the left 8. And I think over the rest of the 4 preseason games we've got left, is it 4? I think. Celtic, Club America. Oh, no, 5. Yeah, Celtic, Club America, City, Madrid, Inter. So over those 5 games, I think we're still going to see Nkunku as a striker and as a left wing. I think we're going to see him in all 3 of those roles, and we've already seen him here. So we'll probably see him in that run again at some point. Probably see him off the left at some point. Probably see him in the striker at some point. So there's no harm in seeing it. But a lot of 8 out of 10s, obviously like an 8.5 and a 9. So it probably averages out to about an 8 out of 10 team from you guys. And the first team got, that's probably around, I think that had a slightly more, but then that 6 out of 10 might take it down a tiny bit. Disasti and Vega's athleticism. Vega's athleticism's very good. Disasti, I agree. Vega, not so much. I rate Vega's athleticism quite highly. Quite quick for a 6'3", long-legged stride, eats up ground quite well. Nice diverse range of preseason opponents to play against. Yeah, I agree, and it's in the right order as well. It's progressive, so we start off like we played Wrexham in a game where they was already warmed up, but we wasn't. So again, it looked a bit scrappy, but we're working up as we go. No offense, it's just I've seen the game change so much in the last 30 years, especially the EPL. But yeah, no offense, we came in peace. We come in peace, we do. I'm not quite sure what you mean, but what are you apologising for? You didn't do anything, as far as I remember. I'm just trying to look through the chat, but I can't see anything where you put anything. But yeah, fair enough. I don't want Arsenal to win the Premier League title. Obviously not. Obviously not. Like I don't want them to either. But I do think I said this year that they'd miss out narrowly. I didn't think they did enough. I think Rice was an amazing signing, but I didn't think it was enough. Now with Calafiori and one of those, if they get Marino or Ruiz, I think they're one transitional monster away. Like for me, it'd be like an Openda or a when they was in for Sheshko. That if they got an Osimhen, that would win them a title. Even just like I say, an Openda who could play off both. So like he's sort of double options, can play off the left in transition, can play as a secondary forward in transition. There'd be different ways of doing it, but I think that's the last piece for them. Reckon Disasi is a third choice for that right centre back role, tossing him for final. But I hope so. I hope so. But again, we're going to see. Who's your preferred striker for Chelsea and why? It would be Jackson, just because. Do you mean of who's already at the club or who we could sign? Because if it's who we could sign, it'd be Osimhen. But it would be Jackson for sure. I just think he's got everything in his locker. He can drop deep and link play, turn and run in behind exactly like Gu was doing the other day, be a nightmare in the channels. And again, I think he's going to go up another level in terms of physicality and goal scoring this year. Arsenal need a striker. Amarodian would also work, yeah. Victor said that. Yeah, you're correct. I meant to come. Oh, 1v1 ability, okay. Arsenal need a striker, but I feel Bayern will admit Havertz. But no, because I think Havertz would that's what I'm saying. I still think for them it's a clever purchase. I still think having that Swiss Army knife tool, he's good in the press, he's good out of possession, he offers enough for them. I think he'd start half games up front. I think he'd come off the bench in other halves. Again, he's a tactical Swiss Army knife, which is exactly what Arteta needs. So I don't think it would suggest that it was a mistake. I think it would still be a very smart one for them. Again, still a good sell for us at the price we got him at, because he weren't going to move the needle for our team, but he did help them. Yeah, of course. The money, that's what I mean. The money is touch and go. Who's my second choice if Osimhen's not available? Would have been Sesko, but he's now not available. Take him off the table. Then it would probably be. I probably would have gone Duran, because I think he's going to absolutely rip it up at West Ham. But the ones still in the market, like that we're still sort of in for, I'd say Amorodian, just because he fits the profile of what I would look at. Preferred back three would be to start the season. Not saying it would end like this, because ideally I do eventually want Colwill to end up in that central centre back role. To start the season, that would be my ideal back three with that, and then Gusto would still get a lot of minutes, but with Enzo here as well, though. By the way, but let's just say Lavia for now. That would be my ideal. Need Broja gone. Yeah, he was poor the other day. Again, I still think I think he's the sort of player that could turn it around for himself, because he's got a lot of natural sort of talent, but he needs minutes big time, and I don't think we can provide them. Am I in the right to be upset that we have the best right back pairing out of the team in the world? No. I saying like, am I right to be upset? It's nobody else's decision. If you're like, for you to have the right to be upset, you have every right to be upset if that's what you want to see. I personally think it's a very good utilisation of Reece and Gusto, but everybody has their own opinion, and that's fair enough, because I understand why you'd want them to be bombing down the line and crossing it in. But when you've got width holding wingers, you want those to be the ones out wide and to be able to beat their man, put it in, beat their man, put it in, beat their man, put it in. Reece or Gusto, they're good on the overlap where they can produce, but they're not as good at producing that burst of speed to beat their man and create for themselves, in terms of create the angle for a cross themselves. Most important thing regarding the 9 position is that we bring in a different profile. Yeah, exactly. I agree. Swap for Fana for Tosin. No, I still think if I had the choice between the two, I think Tottenham's good enough on the ball to play a central role, and I like his height, sort of like imposure on the game in the middle. But Fofana has that too, so like again, that would work. And what I love about Fofana in the central centre back role. Still, I do think slightly better in the right centre back role. What I do love about him in that role is the aggression he can show in here, and still have these two sort of sweeping up behind him. Like when Fofana does jump up and be aggressive, which is probably his best trait, these two can sweep. So I do like that aspect of it. Thoughts on Chelsea signing profiles instead of big names this summer? Like the idea. Risky. Profiles have to be correct, though. I think Vega is the correct one if he works. But again, that's part of the thing. Part of the. And again, with like, it depends with the position too. Because again, Osimhen would make a lot of sense. That he's the right profile and the big name. So he would be ideal. But if not, then yeah, focus on the profile. Profile is the most important in my opinion. Against City, who is in your box midfield alongside? Are you talking about first game of the season against City? If first game of the season against City, I would like to see. Hmm. It's tough. Let's go. That's what I'd like to see first game against City in terms of the midfield. And then that would probably be you. Probably be Sterling. That probably. If that's the team going into the first game against City, how confident are you? How confident are you with that team going against City? First game of the season? Let me know out of 10, because we've been doing things out of 10. Joe agrees with that lineup. Hi, Nick. Minimum expectation this season, minimum 6th. Again, though, when I say minimum, like, it's so, like, a lot of Chelsea fans will turn if things go really bad. This is, I've now got what I've been asking for, so I'm not going to turn. Kukurea is a good shout, yeah. I didn't actually think about that. And Reece is out, you're very correct. So that would be Gusto. I had to correct, so I corrected somebody on that yesterday, and then I've just forgot it myself that Reece is out. So, poor from me. I would like to see Jackson at left wing in this formation, and Maresca has alluded to players playing in multiple positions, so interesting. Kukurea, 7 out of 10. Kukurea is actually one I didn't think of because he's not on my screen, so he didn't come to my mind. But I have been saying I really want him to join up too. So so yeah, that's an interesting one. That leaves things open. Maybe Fofana, because he's a bit sort of off. Let me just think. Maybe we do this. What about that? What do people think of that? Yeah, and that's a good point though. Like with these players coming back, Enzo, like he's only going to have a few weeks. Maybe Lavia does start the season, and Enzo starts the first few games out. But I just think he's going to be too important. On Morodian for 60 million, or just if it's 60 up front from Morodian, I'd rather just stick with you. But if you can it depends if you can work something out with the Gallagher money. Kukurea is a great choice if you're playing attacking football. What about KDH? I think he comes from the bench, at least for those sort of games as well. I could actually see Jackson over in Kunku for the Man City game, possibly. Yeah, I'm assuming you're replying to that. The 60 million. That's not a bad point, but again, I think that would need practice first, and I don't think there's going to be enough time and enough minutes with Reece still needing minutes in pre-season for Casado to get practice to do that in the first game. I know he's done it at Brighton before, so I think it's unlikely. So out of 10 now that we've put Kukurea in, what would you say now out of 10? Would it change if that's your first team, first game of the season against City? Again, Jackson, like it depends. It depends how many minutes Jackson gets. Do we see and it could be this. Like there's options. There's really is options. Which is why I can't wait for more and more games over pre-season, because the more we see, the more we can analyse. I think I'm going to leave it there because we've touched on the City game for the first game of the season, which I wasn't going to even touch on, but we spoke about it a little bit. That's cool. We've answered some questions, and we spoke about the Celtic game, sort of previewed that. So yeah, I've left. What was I going to say? I've got my video out. Got my video out now, which is what we learnt from the game against Wrexham. That video has a few tactical tweaks, like a few things that we saw tactically in that game with the tactics board. Then we saw. I've also got about the players who played in that game and like who I think stood out. I won't spoil it. Please do go watch that video because I'm hoping that does really well. That's just come out today, so please do go watch that. Drop a like on that as well. Let me just refresh. We're on. How many likes did we get during this? We're on 42. Before I end the stream, could we have 8 more likes? Could we get it to 50? I'm going to end the stream literally in 2 minutes. But could we smash the like button? Let me answer the last few questions. Jackson is still injured. Interesting. Chelsea really need a Nico Williams or Elise. Nico Williams would be the dream on that left, but it's just not going to happen. Sterling, I'd like to see him used off the right as well, but I think Madueke is still the one for that right side. 50-50 at the moment. Interesting. Thank you. Interesting. I'll have a look. Thank you for that. Thanks for the stream, my guy Sad. Everyone hit the like and subscribe. Thank you, my guy, Rich Money Makers. So we're gonna end the stream there. Let me refresh. See, we got more. 48 with 2 likes off. With 2 likes off to 50. Smash the like if you haven't already. We're gonna end it there. please do hit the like button. Please do, if you haven't already, go and check out the video on the Chelsea Wrexham game, 2-2. I think it's important for you to understand the roles in the team. So if you want to sort of learn that little bit more about the exact roles within the team and the number 8 and how the wingers have to play, how the pivot have to play, how the centre backs have to play, etc., go watch that video. Everything, thank you. Thank everybody for joining. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.